All right, I think everyone's there. I think we should just start. First of all, by welcoming our guests, Marcus and Lauren. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
No problem.
I will do a short introduction, and then you let me know if I left any important things out. Yeah. Did my research a little bit, so I hope I get all the keys right. Lauren, of course, ladies first. Lauren is 29 years old, right-handed player, of course, from England, playing mixed doubles and ladies doubles. Highest world ranking in ladies doubles is 18 and in mixed number 7 with Marcus. Best results, if I remember correctly, gold in the European Games in 2019 with Marcus in the mixed and silver in the ladies doubles. And Commonwealth Games silver medalist in the women's doubles and in the mixed doubles. Of course, plenty of other tournaments that you have won and that you have won silver and gold. Did I pick the right highlights? I know that you were also participation in the Rio Olympics. So that's also definitely worth mentioning.
Yeah, no, they're perfect.
All right, very good. All right, on to Marcus, who I had the pleasure of playing in the same team, which was awesome. 31 years old, also right-handed, also playing men's doubles and mixed doubles. Highest world ranking in men's doubles is 12, and of course number 7 with Lauren in the mixed. Best result was, I'll never forget that, the bronze at the Rio Olympics, which I also witnessed. Gold in the European Games, where you won both the men's doubles and the mixed doubles. And gold in the Commonwealth Games in 2018 in the men's doubles, and silver in the mixed. And also, I know from your side, also plenty of other wins in several tournaments, I would say. Anything left out there?
No, that's all good.
All good. All right. Very, very good. All right. Listen, the way I was thinking of doing it tonight is very simple. All the players that are here tonight, you sent me plenty of questions, a little bit more than I thought you would. I put them in a few boxes. One is players' daily life, one is mental, emotional part, then one is the tournaments. And then there's random topics. Yeah, I'm just gonna start with the player's daily life. If there's any questions while Lauren and Marcus are explaining, just give me a sign if you think, oh, I really need to know this. Then you just, ask your question. And if you don't want to ask it yourself, you can also write in the chat so we can at least read it. Yeah. All right, I'll just hit it off. With a very simple question. What do you guys think is needed to be top of the world, and then especially being Europeans, in general?
I think, being a European badminton player, for me, you're already at a disadvantage to some of the Asian players. Not always just because of how many players they have, but they start from so young. And they have so many role models to look up to, not just when they get to 18 or 19, but from when they start at 5 years old, they have something to work towards, which, even myself and Lauren could probably say at that age, we didn't have that. We just really enjoyed playing badminton and things like that. And something that we've learned, that to even compete with them, you have to find new ways of playing. You can't just say, I'm going to be super fast and hit it super hard. You have to have a smarter brain than them, for example, and you have to play in a way that suits you and not that suits them.
Yeah.
I'm 31 now, and I've been professional for, I guess, 12 years. And I'm still trying to find the answers. I'm not world number 1 or world champion. I'm still fighting to find the answers.
Yeah.
And it does take time and experience. You have to go through losing badly to people and asking yourself those questions, and you have to be really honest with yourself. And then you have to work on it. And I think that is the hardest part, is being critical of yourself and then having to go into training and work on those areas that actually you don't feel so good in.
Yeah.
I think people that can do that will progress a lot quicker than others.
Yeah, I also think, if I look at the team, of course, you have around you, like the coaches, athletic coaches, nutritionists, psychologists. What do you think is then the most essential part? Because, of course, there are different things. Maybe I'm forgetting people that you have around you, but just to name a few, what is that thing that maybe then gives the edge in front of maybe others that are also good in Europe, but not as good as the both of you?
I mean, I think the key role is the on-court coach. So the coach that, works with you as a partnership and develops your badminton game and analyzes your matches and things like that. But I actually think that all of those are the little parts, whether that's a psychologist, nutritionist, a weights coach, a physio. Those are the sort of roles that make the small percentage differences. And, if you just have, you one coach and the one person you work with, and you feel like you've reached, say, like 30 or 40 in the world, you might feel like you hit a bit of a plateau and you get stuck. And actually, what you might need is input from a weights coach or from a psychologist, especially a nutritionist, anyone like that can make those little percentage gains. Because at the end of the day, I wouldn't say there's one thing where you go, that's what it takes to be a badminton player, because there's so many elements to the game. The mental side is huge. I think if you look at the top players in the world and the ones that are consistent at the top, they are mentally really strong, really mature. They never show any kind of doubt or anything like that. So I think that's a really big part of getting to the top and staying at the top. But I think because of the variety in the sport, I think you need a little bit of everything, really.
Yeah, so it's like you both seek some kind of a mentor who can then take that part, and and that can be taking different parts from different people, of course. I actually had one very interesting question from one of the players that was about how you deal with it. Let me see if I can find it here. Just quickly have a look. It was a question about what do you do when you fight on court? when you fight, yeah, like together, when you are not agreeing or not fighting in a way, but you don't agree, or you think, oh my goodness, Marcus, come on, do better, or the other way around. How do you solve it? There was actually a question from one of the players.
I think one thing both myself and Lauren have is on like real honesty with each other. If she's pissed with me, I know about it, and it's the same the other way around. But I think the worst thing is keeping things inside yourself. Getting internally angry at other people, because eventually you'll just blow up.
Yeah,
and things will be 10 times worse.
Yeah.
Me and Lauren, if to be fair, as a whole, we're not so bad. But when there is something wrong, the sooner you can find it and nip it in the bud, the better. So, if I've annoyed Lauren for whatever reason, she'll tell me, and I'll be like, why? And then you need to have that conversation straight away, I think. And then the better your relationship is, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I say fights, it's not really fight. Disagreements probably happen more on the training court or, even at home than they do in actual tournament matches. Because in a tournament, I think it's just really important to remember that both of you want to win. And if I'm playing really badly and I feel like Marcus is thinking, Lauren, you're playing really badly, it's only going to make me worse. Yeah. And so actually in those situations, it's for him to step up to help me get back into the game. Because at the end of the day, you win and lose as a pair. If I play amazing, have the best game of my life, and Marcus isn't on it, we might still lose. And so what I've done is kind of irrelevant. So it's about kind of in a match, putting those things aside and figuring out how to help your partner. And at times you might not need to help your partner because it might just be going really well. But I think a lot of the time in doubles, it's a really key part of the game is to kind of stop each other dropping that level.
So it's a little bit about emotional intelligence, I guess, also. And I guess nowadays we can use that maybe also a little bit more in the situation where we're in.
Yeah.
But to let me see, there's a question from Johanka where she's asking, at what age did you to specialize in doubles? Because if I remember correctly, you also played singles, but I can't remember until what age. So I can't remember that. So when did you realize, hey, listen, I want to do doubles and mixed, and I'm going to specialize only on that?
I never actually made a decision myself. When I played some of the junior tournaments around Europe, I think I got to around 15 or 16, and then Badminton England just stopped entering me in the singles when we went to these tournaments. So I think it's around 15, maybe 16, and I didn't decide. They kind of decided for me, but that, you know, and that's just the path I went down. Whether it was because I was getting better results, I don't know, but that's kind of how it went for me.
It was a bit later for me. So I think in general, I got to a better level later than Marcus did. So I didn't go full time until I was about 20 at the National Centre. I played at university and stuff a lot before then. But I think it was when I came out of juniors, so 19, 20, that I stopped playing singles. Before then, I knew that I was going to be a doubles player. It was quite clear just from the attributes I brought to the game that doubles was a lot more suited to me than singles. But I kept playing because I thought it was key for my movement. So, you know, it helped me get around the court. It made me feel quite easy. And I think, yeah, it was something that I do think benefited me. But I actually played mixed at juniors and then stopped when I came out of juniors until I was about 26, and then I started playing mixed again, just because of the partners that I was given and stuff like that when I did go full time.
Kind of worked out, didn't it?
It did. Should have started sooner.
You know, it's interesting because you see in many countries, you know, that it's always all about the singles. And of course, at some point, I also think that now in your case, Marcus, you were not the one that decided, but did you trust their judgment? Because I also think that sometimes you can force someone into a certain discipline, but if that person really doesn't want, I also don't think it doesn't make sense. It's not worth it.
No, absolutely. I mean, it was a long time ago now. If I'm going back to when I was 15, but from what I remember, you know, I loved playing all of the events. You know, I wouldn't say doubles was my favorite or anything like that.
Yeah.
Whichever path I went down, I would have been just as happy with.
Yeah.
Just because I think I just love playing. But to be fair, I think in those tournaments, as you get to maybe 17, 18, 19. To play all three events, it's like you going on court for singles and you come off, you'd be going on court to doubles, come off and on for mixed. So I think then it starts to get quite hard physically.
Yeah, that's also true. I think that's where some of our players are at the moment, you know, playing all three and maybe also figuring out, you know, what they think fits best to them. Milan actually had a good question about if you could change something in the past with training wise, would you change anything? Like if you could have done something more effectively or better or different, would you have done it, or you would have done exactly the same like you have done?
I might have started, or well, to be fair, not avoided training around the net. So when I came into the squad, I played with Gabby and I was just the rear court player. So pretty much every day in training, I'd just do mid-rear until my face fell off. And then they're like, Lauren, well done, go home. You know, that was what I did.
Mindless.
Yeah, and it was, you know, a little bit mindless and my technique's never been the best. But actually when I started working around the net, you know, I felt like my technique around the rest of the court improved as well because you know, the speed of reactions of what you have to do in the forecourt and the technical side of things and considerations like that helped my technique further back. So, you know, from what I did at the net, it improved my mid-court and it also helped my rear court in some ways as well. And that's not saying that I wanted to become more of a net player from younger. It's just saying that I wish I hadn't avoided that part of the court so much because I was almost embarrassed about how bad I was there. And it wasn't that I was terrible. I just never practiced there. So, of course, I wasn't going to be good there. And I think I could have improved better from having done that sooner.
All right. A very interesting question also from Timon. If we go a little bit back in your careers where you were not full-time yet, but still in school, and then he's asking, was it hard to have good grades in school and keep up with all the sessions you had and tournaments in the weekend? Because of course that's a situation where most of them or many of them are in at the moment.
Yeah, I think I was 17 at the time when I decided to stop. So I finished my high school, if you like, and then I went on to the college before university. And I got 1 year into the 2 years. And I remember coming home one day, I can't remember what happened, but I said to my mum and dad, I've had enough. I can't do this. I can't do both.
Yeah.
Because I was going off to training in the evening and then having to go back in and I just couldn't do, I was doing both, but at maybe 60-70%. And that just didn't really sit well with me. I think now, especially at university, you can do both, but you have to be very, very disciplined with your time. Sure. I think for sure you can do both. But maybe one thing I would change is to go back to when I was at 16, 17 age. I could have done it. I really could have, but I chose not to. So for me, at that age, maybe I was a bit undisciplined. And I said I was only like 60%, but I could have been 90%.
Yeah.
But because at 16, you kind of feel like you know exactly where you want to go and what you want to do in life. And that's where I was. So I think, yeah, biggest thing I'd change would be around that sort of time, I think.
Yeah, I mean, mine was quite different because I did my college and then went to university. So I did a degree, but I did that because at the time I couldn't get into the national centre because I wasn't good enough. So the next step for me was university, where there was more players and better training. So it was just kind of a stepping stone of mine. But I think, like Marcus says, the discipline thing is huge. You can absolutely do education and badminton, but you have to accept that you probably can't do badminton, education, and have a huge social life. I remember being at school when I was around, 14, 15, and there'd be parties at the weekend, but I had to go off to a tournament. It was always about sacrifice. I missed a lot of friends' birthdays or, things like that. And it was tough, but actually, it's made me a bit stronger mentally now because I've been through that sacrifice and, worked to get where I am now. So it feels so much more worth it.
Yeah. It's also about managing the effort, I guess. Also, it's all about that. Just a quick question to the players: if still you're feel free if you want to jump in at any time. Yeah, no problem. It's not that I like to hear myself talk so much. So just write or just take the words. It's really, really no problem. Of course, now that you're both, I think one of the few at the highest level that played doubles at mixed. One question from Richard is that he asked how long does it the regeneration and also takes in between, because it's you play one and you play another, but you need to get ready again, and it's of course the highest level, so it's not like you play 20 minutes.
No, I think I've had a lot of different experiences with that. So, I've had tournaments where I felt I managed it very well.
Yeah.
I've had tournaments where I've played the first round in mixed, and then I later on in the day to my men's doubles, and I'm physically and emotionally drained.
Yeah.
And I can't understand why. Because for me, there's never been that consistency where I just feel like I'm made of stone and I can just keep going forever and ever. Some tournaments I do, and then some tournaments I don't feel like that. But I think for me, it's the managing of the emotional stress. So, going on to play a match in the morning, it being really, really tough. Maybe you win, maybe you lose, but either way, you feel quite a lot of emotional stress. And then 3 hours later, you have to have cooled down, had some food, take some time to just relax, and then start thinking about your next match, get warmed up, and then go back on court and do the same again. And I've found it emotionally very hard and tiring. Yeah. Often when I've lost, it's because my brain's not switched on and not engaged more than my body. I don't know if it's different for you.
No, I think the same. I think a lot of it is about, for me, the key part is when you go on to that second game, that in the hour or 2 hours before it, that you've prepped for that match and you've got your mind in the right sort of mindset for that discipline or that game. So whether that's tactics against your opponents or just something that makes you feel good as a player and you've thought about that, it's just that you've managed to switch those mindsets and go through the process of mentally preparing, because you'll do everything you can for your body. You can cool down, you can eat, you can warm up, but a lot of it is that mental sort of focus side of things.
All right. Also a question from Marian to stay on the topic. He's also saying, of course, you play two disciplines. Have you ever thought about only going for one discipline? Because sometimes I could imagine if you're in the highest tournaments, it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of energy. Have you considered just going for mixed completely? I'm not saying, or maybe for the men's doubles or but you're sitting here, so mixed, I would say.
This 3 to 4 year period is really the only time I've played two events like properly. I've kind of played some mixed, and then I've played some men's doubles. Like in the lead up to Rio, I only played men's doubles, and Lauren only played mixed doubles. Women's doubles. And that worked really well. I think looking forward, it'll be I'm 31, I'll be 32 in September. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm old, but it's certainly something you have to think about.
Yeah.
And realistically, how much longer can my body take the punishment I'm kind of giving it? But I think it's one of those things you can't say at this date I'm going to just stop and play one event. And in sport, things change all the time, so you have to be quite flexible and evaluate at the time and be ready to make those tough decisions when you come along.
Of course. Yeah, I think you're both doing awesome in both events, and I think it's really cool to see Europeans doing good. Just like you said, there's not so many that do great, so I'm very happy to see. I'm always supporting. So you have one fan. I know you have a few more in these pictures. There's a few more I already know. I'm not gonna tell who, so not to embarrass anyone. Just to go a little bit back on January, where you went to have this Thailand series, there's a few questions from different players. Is how did you deal with it? Of course, there was a lockdown. Then you prepare for a tournament. Then you go to Thailand, and you're spent almost 4 weeks in kind of a lockdown or in a bubble, as you want to call it. How was that? I can't even imagine what it would be like.
It was actually very challenging. And it's one of those ones you don't want to complain about it too much, because it was just really great to be back playing competition. And those are the situations that it kind of has to be in. But we pretty much couldn't leave our hotel room apart from when we were practicing or playing. So, it's a lot of time to spend in a room. And, lockdown in England, I don't know if it's been similar there, but we were in our house a lot, but we could go in the garden. And you've got different rooms in a house. Being in just a hotel room and getting very average, often cold food, was mentally very draining, actually. And I think by the end of it, by the 4th week, we were pretty fatigued from that sort of sense. We were pretty worn down by it, and there's a few frustrations and things like that. But I think it was a really important trip, because I can't see things changing massively in the future. As in, in the next 6 months, year or so, even the Olympics could well be a similar situation. And I think, over time, I think events will get better from an athlete's well-being point of view, that let you kind of have some more outdoor time, and they might look at improving the quality of the food. But there's certain things that you just have to do. You have to travel out a few days earlier, and you have to have a lot of COVID tests, and those aren't going to go away, definitely not in the next 6 months. So it's kind of one of those things to look back on and learn from. What can we do that if we are in that situation again, when we get to that final week, we're feeling much better mentally and we're dealing with it more, because that's just sport. It's the same as losing a game and reflecting on it and thinking, what will I do next time? You have to deal with those situations well to put in your best performances.
All right. I'm just thinking a little bit about the players that are here at the webinar. What was your motivation, every single day to get better, to improve? Because I can imagine, and I think I speak for most of the faces I can see here on camera, that there are some days where you think, oh my goodness, why am I doing this? There's no tournaments. Then of course you have been lucky, but in lockdown, how did you stay motivated? Because I can imagine that you also maybe had days where you thought, yeah, well, not today, but still.
Yeah, I think Lauren and I were very lucky in that we lived together also. So the days when I didn't want to get out of bed, I was like, I don't want to do anything today. She'd be like, come on, like we're gonna do this, because this is like what this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing, this is what we're aiming for. And Lauren had to have those days as well. And it wasn't, don't get me wrong, it wasn't a great experience at all. But I think we helped each other through it. And I can only imagine how much harder it was when you're there solo, having to motivate yourself every single day. Yeah. The one thing I would say is, there is an end to it. It's been going on for nearly a year now, but there is an end, and there's an end in sight. So the way I've kind of viewed it is everybody in the world is in the exact same position, is in the same boat as you. And whilst that doesn't make you feel better, when you're on your own and have no motivation, I think one thing that we all do have in common is that, we can talk about how isolated we've been. And everybody, I think without exception, feels the same way. Yeah. So, whenever you go to your first tournament, whenever it may be, you might be feeling really nervous because you've not played for a year in a proper tournament. Whoever you're playing against will be feeling the exact same way. Yeah. And sometimes that's the way you have to look at it. Even though you're not feeling great, the person across the net is also feeling that same pressure, nerves, anxiety about what's going to happen next.
Yeah, it's probably like a mixed feeling, having the nervousness of stepping on court again, but also how will you perform, and oh my God, can I still do it? And all these other emotions that are involved. And when you, of course, get the chance to go on court, it's a mixed feelings, I would say. For example, in our case, of course, in Slovakia, the situation has been a little bit the same. Lockdown. I've started doing online sessions with them. But it's of course hard to motivate if I'm on this side of the screen and the others are on the other part of the screen. But do you think it's a good way to try and motivate and stimulate and keep everybody involved, because it's also not easy for me, but of course yeah, you try everything, I guess, but I don't know if you had any sort of that from the national squad.
Yeah, we had, I think 3 times a week, we had kind of, even if it was just coming on for 20 minutes and doing a core session, yeah. I think one thing it was that, it gave you something to do that day at a certain time. So you were tied in, you had to do it. And the days when you're not feeling motivated, sometimes that's perfect because you almost don't have a choice. But also just kind of to see other people and to train as a group, as a unit, is, it's just a nice change. It's quite refreshing. And I definitely think we found that. Look, a couple of things for me in lockdown that kind of helped keep us going was just having a routine and making sure I got out of bed and went to bed at the same times as I maybe normally would. Yeah. Otherwise, me personally, I don't like getting up in the morning, so I probably would have stayed in bed until like lunchtime, and then the day's gone now, I can't do anything. Yeah. So just getting out of bed every day, even if it's just 8 a.m. or whatever, and sticking to that Monday to Friday, like you would do as if you're in a normal training week, you kind of get out of bed with a bit more purpose. And whether that is for a Zoom workout or whether it's your own workout, that sort of scheduling and almost having the discipline yourself is motivating, because guarantee even if you don't want to start doing a workout, by the time you finish it, you won't regret doing it. You're not going to be like, I wish I hadn't done that. So, you know, it's just that getting started that takes the push.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's you know, it's hard. It's like you say, sometimes you have days where it's easier. Some days it's you know, you're like, oh, let's get started. But yeah, everybody does it differently, you know. So yeah, I think it's what you do with it. Yeah, and I think daily routines is a big part of it, that you don't change too much, even though we're in a bad situation. Try and stick to your daily routines, plan your days as they would be normal, as good as possible. Let me see. Let's go a little bit to some tournament related stuff. There was Leia asked what your favorite tournament is to play. Ooh. If you can pick two. Okay, we do two. You can pick two.
Indonesia's got to be one of them, because the arena is absolutely bonkers. There's like, the fans are so loud. I remember playing a couple of games. I think I was playing against an Indonesian pair, and I was trying to tell my partner where I was going to serve, and I was pretty much from here to Marcus yelling where I was going to serve because the crowd were just making noise. So that's a pretty incredible experience. And even when you're there, it's like what football players would be like in the UK. People just absolutely love you, and they're just so passionate about badminton. So that's a very, very cool experience.
Yeah.
I think if the only other one I would choose would be the All England.
Yeah,
but for sure second to Indonesia, but only because it's really on home ground, and you know, it's just nice to have people cheering, whether it's for you or against you. Like in Indonesia, it's completely against you, but
yeah, true.
Just don't care, because you know the atmosphere is unbelievable. So you know, it's just the best experience. And but then there's sort of times you like, I really enjoy playing, and this is like why we do it. You know, for these sort of moments.
Yeah, it's amazing. I definitely agree. Indonesia is the best I've ever been. Crowd is crazy, really crazy. Peter wants to know what are your toughest opponents? We'll just stick to the mix. That's maybe could be also be different for the both of you, of course. But
I mean, Zheng Siwei is pretty hard to play, but I mean they are world number one, so it seems like a very obvious answer. But you know, he's just got so many shots and so much speed, and she dominates the front of the court, which makes them very, especially in certain arenas. You know, in some halls you think maybe you could defend them for a little while, but in other halls they're absolutely lethal. And their first three shots of the rally, the quality is so high that if you hit it a centimetre too loose, you're going to be punished for it. So I've found them very, very hard to play so far.
No, I'd probably agree with that. The only other player that I just cannot play or never could play was Fu Haifeng. I know he's a men's doubles player, but he was just so annoying. Like he'd like defend, and then you're so tired, and then you come in and lift, and then he just booms it in like right into your chest, like, and it was the same rally on repeat. You know, I found him so unbelievably tough to play, and I never got near him. I'm glad he's retired, to be honest.
He's gone.
He's gone. Yeah.
Then Julia wants to know, what was the best match you've ever played? I think I have an idea, but maybe I'm totally wrong, but I'm not saying so. The best match. We'll pick you can do mixed and men's doubles and women's doubles, but up to you. The best match you've ever played.
Gosh, I don't know.
I mean, my men's doubles obviously probably in Rio, I think. That the bronze match was probably the thing that we'll remember, but the performances before that also, I think, something, just the whole week will be something that myself and Chris will remember, just because we performed 15-20% above our best level that we'd played before. You know, and at such a critical moment is something that, you know, we have to be very proud of, I think.
Yeah, I don't really know mine. I think one game that I felt like I played well in was the game at All England against Watanabe and Higashino. So I think it was the second round. And it was just like, I just got out of bed and just walked onto court and I had a magic wand in my hand. And I couldn't do anything wrong. And I was like, it just, I kind of came off court and didn't really know what happened. I just knew that we'd kind of won, but I was just so kind of in the flow of the game and everything was just working. So, that's quite a recent game where I think I wish I could do that every time. I need to figure out what I did on that day that went so well. But I think that just sums up badminton in some ways. Sometimes you just have a day where you're like, I don't even know why, but it's just gone really well.
Yeah, it's amazing. If you have those days, it's like you can't, it doesn't matter what you touch, it's just always perfect.
Yeah.
Best days.
Then
Maria wants to know, and this is for the both of you, how do you relax before matches? So you're not, of course you're always a little bit nervous. I think everybody is, but to have the right tension in the body, not to be all shaky. And is there anything special you, or do you don't want to share the magic tips?
I think it's perfectly natural to be nervous. I think some people try and really suppress nerves. But, that's just part of going on to compete against somebody else. Yeah. No matter what sport it is, even in a work environment, I'm sure people get nervous. When they go to interviews, they get nervous because they want to perform to their best. And again, it's one of these things, everybody feels it. But for me, the biggest thing is nerves controlling you to a point where you're scared to win. You're almost afraid that you're going to lose.
Yeah.
And that's time you go on and your hands are like tied, and that's when you can't play your best. And for me, the best performances have been when I've gone on court. I've been nervous, but I've just been in my mind. I'm going to say, I'm going to throw everything I have at you, win or lose, doesn't matter. And there's been some matches I've gone on really, really nervous. Not so much recently, but in past years. And I've played really bad.
Yeah.
Come off court, I'm really frustrated, really mad. And I kind of realized the world is still turning. I can go home, nothing really changes. So sometimes that perspective before you go on court,
sure.
And that's helped me just give my best fight and not be worried about the consequences of losing.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a really big mindset about how you deal with that.
Yeah. I think we are actually quite different in how we mentally approach games. I like to have information about the people I'm playing. And not loads of information, not too much, but I like to watch a few video clips or have maybe 3 things that I know that they do and 3 things that I want to do in a game. And that kind of helps me focus mentally. Because I think I just want my mind to have something to go to. It's like, this is what I'm going to. And I also have like quite a set warm-up routine. So, I always go through the same stages. So I kind of, again, that's mentally preparing because I always know that going through that means that I'm about to play a match. So yeah, for me, it's quite a lot about that routine in the build-up and then just having a few focus areas just to stop your brain wandering off to, like Marcus said, nerves or whatever else it may be.
Yeah, I think it's quite good where you also mentioned that being scared to lose, people are already thinking about the outcome of the match before they even step on court. What if I lose or what if I play bad? You just start and you see where it ends. And then if you have a good day, it's fantastic. You can't always win. And I also agree that, when you leave the court, win or lose, the world still turns, right? So it's not the end of the world. I'll switch a little bit to some random topics. I'm gonna look at Martina if she wants to ask her questions herself, or if she, let's see, to maybe get someone else to speak for a change. Tina, would you like to ask your questions?
Hey,
yeah, I can ask my question. I was wondering, this is a completely different topic as you said, but I was wondering, how would you recommend, or what is your takeaway, how to make our sport more green or sustainable? I know you follow this lifestyle, so I was wondering what would be the simple things that we could change?
I think one really simple thing could be the amount of plastic bottles that we use at tournaments. And even if it was, we still had to use plastic bottles, because obviously people need water, and if you can't drink tap water, but sometimes you get them and they're like this big, and to go on for a match, you use like 10. And so, you know, either we get bigger ones, or I think at All England last year, they used cans, which were recyclable. So that's one quite big thing. Another thing would be kind of recycling and things like that available at the event. So, you know, there's usually just generic rubbish and everything goes in there, whereas actually you could sort things into recyclable, and hopefully then less is going into landfill. Anything from you?
No, I think it's just people's perceptions of what they can do to help, and I think it's educating people to what they can actually do, because, you know, like Lauren says, most people will just throw a bottle away or whatever it is and not really think about it. But when you see at an event like the All England or a World Championships, you see it, you walk past a room and it's full with like water the whole way across, and we live in England, and you can drink the water, there's nothing wrong with it, but for some reason we just get all these bottles, and there must be thousands and thousands of them, and for no reason.
No.
And I think it's just education behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be really cool if either like Badminton Europe or BWF ran a sort of scheme of like education, whether it be like Zoom things like this or educational newsletters, because for me, when I've been trying to make these like most green choices, when I know why I'm making the choices, it's much easier, because a lot of the time it's a bit more difficult to have something sustainable if you know it's a little bit more effort or a little bit more time, but if you understand why that's important, you're more likely to do it. Whereas I think a lot of people don't really know why it's important or what effect it's having. So education is really, really key.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for the answer. I will for sure use this maybe for the future.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Totally different topic. Lauren, there's a question for you from Julia. In which country did you have your best coffee?
Ooh, coffee. Great question. I actually think Australia has the best coffee, and their standard as a country is really, really high. That was where I first started drinking coffee. So when I played with Heather Olver in Olympic qualifying year, she got me into coffee, and the first tournament that was Australia. So yeah, I'd say that has really, really nice coffee.
All right. Then yeah, probably a question you have gotten many times probably over the years. What would be the ultimate goal for the both of you? I'm talking, let's talk mixed. What's the ultimate? What would be when you would say, listen, if I get that, then bye everyone?
What? I mean, I would love to win a world championship medal. That's just from me personally, because I've not won that many gold medals, but I've medaled at most major events. And the world championship for me is kind of like the one biggest thing that's still missing. So if I could get in a position where I could potentially win a medal, I'd be quite happy with that.
I mean, I'd just like Olympic gold. It's not to ask. I don't think that's not ambitious to think. Why not? If you're talking big dreams, it's world number one, an Olympic and world gold, isn't it? You know, that's what I'm here for. anything else is rubbish. No, that's absolutely not true. But that would be obviously that's
what we're working towards.
The top goal.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're world number 7 now, it's not that it's out of reach, is it? So,
Absolutely.
So why not? I would say go for it. Definitely go for it. Also, a totally different question. Also, probably people have asked you about it. What about Brexit? Did Brexit in any form or any way affect you? And do you think it will affect you guys in the future?
I don't think it's affected us personally at all. Whether it'll affect our country, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I do think regardless of what we chose to do, I think we'll be closely knitted to the rest of Europe for forever. I know it's been really dragged out and all that sort of stuff, and it's been I'm sure it's been as painful for you as it has been for us reading about it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
You know, I think the majority of British people still want a perfectly good relationship with Europe. It's not like we're saying we don't want anything to do with you again. You know, it's definitely nothing like that.
No.
But not whether from a badminton point or, you know, whether to go on holidays, I don't think it will affect us, and I don't think it'll affect you guys either. In the short term or long term, I really don't think it will make that much difference.
No, it's not something I've given much thought. So
hasn't bothered you?
Hasn't bothered me.
Fine. If it doesn't bother you, it's plenty. Then we just skip the subject. When you are gonna stop your career, I'm not saying when. After 2024, after that gold medal in mixed, do you have any plans for the future? Do you know if you, for example, are gonna go in the coaching or gonna go a totally different way? Have you given that any thought or not really?
Actually, I think we both have agreed when you don't want to think about it too soon when you're playing. Just looking at it now, since I was 18, I've been involved in badminton in some way, and effectively since I was 6, I've been in love with badminton. So badminton is kind of like all I know.
Yeah.
So would I turn my back on it at age 35? I'm not sure. I don't think I would, just because, you know, I feel like I've got too much experience or knowledge to not give something back. Having said that, you know, I might get to 35 and think I want to cut my ties and start something completely new. Again, it's going to be one of those decisions I make, I think, at the time, and hopefully it's 3-4 years away, and so much can change in that time.
True.
Yeah, I think, again, I haven't given it loads of thought because I think it's just what opportunities come around when you finish. Part of me wants to go into sort of a media journalism type job, but also use that to kind of raise the profile of badminton in the UK, because I think it's a really great sport and a lot of people play in this country, but I don't think a lot of people think that it can be a career, and I don't think it's seen at the highest level often enough.
Yeah.
You know, it might be the same there. You might find that, you know, when you're in badminton and you know what it looks like at the top, it's incredible. But a lot of people that don't play, it's never on TV, and it's never kind of in the papers, or it's never publicised. And I think that it could have so much more so many more headlines and so much more popularity. And I think that would improve the sport in England or in Europe even.
Yeah, I think it's also something you should not think about. I think it's, you know, when it's time to stop, you know that for yourself. You also don't have to publicly announce it. Some do, some don't. Some players already know what they want to do after, some don't. And you will always figure it out. So it's also not something that I think you should be actively thinking about. You just think about that gold in Tokyo.
Oh, there.
Oh, that gold in Tokyo. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, and then maybe one more in Paris, also fine. I will have a look at the screen here, and actually I would like to give the opportunity to the players to actually ask something, because I'm getting a little bit tired of talking. So I'm looking around. Is there anyone that would like like to ask something. There's of course 100,000 questions more we can ask, but time is of course limited. But if there's something you really, really would like to know, now's the chance, I would say.
Don't be shy.
Don't be, yeah, exactly my thought. Exactly.
I mean, Marcus, you sort of answered it already, but what you said, it was, so when you lose in men's doubles, for example, and you play mixed later that day, you said you spoke about the emotional stress you go through, no matter win or lose. And what I would like to know is how exactly, what's your recipe on dealing with it?
I think, like you say, it could be win or lose. For me, a lot of the time, it's the same amount of stress, and it will cause you the same amount of tiredness. So I think for me, it's being able to let it go as soon as you can. So even, I know obviously when you lose, it's harder to let go, but let's just say you won. I think you kind of have to say, okay, I've won. In my pocket it goes straight away, and you know, we concentrate on the next one. You know, you can pat yourselves on the back next week and say, oh, I had some really good rounds there. But if you come off court and you've had a really good win and you're concentrating, thinking about it for the next hour, I think sometimes that is distracting, and that's taken away from your next match if it's in the same day. So again, for me, it's about being really efficient with your time. If you come off court and you know you've got a couple of hours to prepare for the next one, win or lose, you have to say quick review with the coach if you need to, but we can talk about that at the end of the day. Especially with any sort of negativity, we have to put that aside and get some positive vibes for the next match. And again, I'm telling you as if like that's what I always do. I don't, and I'll be honest, I've come off court before and I've been frustrated, and I just want to talk it out. I'm like, this was not good, that was not good, no, didn't like that. And you know, and that's no good, because 2 hours later I'm going to be playing with Chris in men's doubles. So you know, it's something that I'm still learning all the time, but for me that's probably one of the most important things.
Anyone else? I'm just checking if anyone else is not shy to ask a question.
What can I ask? Were there some times when you doubt, like in the past, if it's the right way to go, like doing badminton or?
Yeah, 100%. You know, I spoke about earlier the amount of things that you miss, you know, whether it's friends, parties, or a wedding or anything like that. And those kind of moments you do think, is it really worth it? And even, you know, times when you're not playing how you would like to play, because unfortunately, you know, you can have quite a few tournaments in a row where you maybe don't play your best or you don't feel great on court. And you will start to kind of doubt what you're doing. But I think, you know, the key thing about those times is that you push through them and you know, continue to believe in yourself, continue to put the work in training. And, you know, if you do that, you will kind of come out of it and you will start to feel better and you will enjoy the game again. And it seems, I don't know, it sounds kind of untrue in a way, but it's like if you do push through, you will eventually play well and you will improve. It's just that those are kind of the times. I think, you know, a lot of really great athletes and players will say that, you know, those are the really key times, because you maybe learn more about yourself and learn more about your game when you're not feeling the best. And when you do come out the other side of it, you're much stronger and you're much more mature. And so I don't think you should panic if you're doubting what you're doing, but you should kind of always try to find solutions and try to find ways to improve and get yourself out of those sort of feelings. And like Marcus says, you know, whatever happens, the world still turns. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. All you need to know is that you gave it your best.
I do think in sport as well, there's no guarantees. So, you know, if you go to university and you study medicine, you become a doctor. And, you know, that's just the path that you take, just for example. Whereas you choose to be a sports person, you could train so hard and do everything right, and you'll get to whatever level it is that you get to. You might be world champion or you might not be. But there's, you know, there are no guarantees. But I think for me, it's pretty cool finding out exactly what it is that you're capable of. And there's no, you know, no one actually knows what you're capable of, which, you know, I also like, because it doesn't seem like there's any restrictions on what you can actually achieve. So I think sometimes when you get that doubt, you have to think, I'm doing something pretty cool. And, you know, I think it's worth exploring, seeing what I can do, you know, and looking back later in life, I think you'll be really proud that you gave it a go.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to come back to what Lauren said about this, right? So the doubts kick in, and that's the big one when there's a negative experience, or where there's a negative, like a bad match or something. And then doesn't it help to like just sort of remember why you even play and why you chose this career in the first place? And if you think that, if you wouldn't mind sharing, well, if it's not a secret, what is exactly your the two of you's whys?
I think, you know, when I was growing up playing, my family played, and I went and played and went to their club, and the club that I played at was like a family to me as well. So the experience of that growing up was a huge part of my life. And I think, you know, knowing that all of those people that I played with and my family are willing me to succeed is something that really drives me. You know, I'm not just playing for myself. You know, every time I win, you know, they're kind of very proud of me, and that makes me feel, you know, very motivated, and, you know, pretty amazing that when I'm on that court, I'm kind of not alone. I'm like pushed on by a whole team of people, whether that's people that have coached me when I was younger or just people that I played with growing up. So I think for me, that's a big thing, is that not only do I want to do myself proud, but I want to, you know, give them a reason to be proud too.
And I think when those doubts come into your mind, you can often get into quite a low point. And as a sportsman or woman, those low points feel so much worse than I think if you were in a regular job. But what I would say is the high points are incredible, you know, and they balance each other out. So there might only be 1 or 2 times you get that really high point where it feels amazing. And there'll be nothing that can compare to it. You know, I've spoke to so many different players from the past. You know, I don't know if you all know Nathan Robertson. He's a world champion, Olympic silver medalist, and he coaches now. He's a great coach, but he said, you know, nothing that I do in my life now will compare to the feelings I had when I had those games that I came through and I won. So I think that's what you have to remember as an athlete, that your lows are right down here, but your highs are right up here. And I think most of the people, they just kind of like hover around here a lot of the time. So just remember, when you're down there, next week you could be right up there. And the difference is often really, really small.
All right, everyone. I'll wrap it up, because I think if we keep going, well, I could also ask one questions more, because I'm always curious, and I think it's awesome that you took time to share all these things with us. So first of all, a big thank you from my side. And I think I speak for most of the players also when I say that. I think it will give them a lot, knowing, you know, about your experiences, learning new things, how you cope with things, how you deal with certain situations. Well, for the moment, of course, I would like to wish you all the best of luck. Yeah, for the next coming tournaments. We'll be cheering for you. I think you two are doing great. It's awesome to see a pair like you two doing so well on the world tour. And you have my support, and you for sure have the cutest dog. He's there in the corner now, you can't see, but
Yes.
definitely the cutest one. So people, thank you so much. Yeah, all three of you. Yeah, thank you so much. And Marcus, I have one trick question for you to end. Who was your best mixed doubles player ever? Who was your best mixed doubles partner ever? Because nobody knows, so don't worry.
I know. It's probably Heather Olver, or I don't know. I'm kidding.
How rude. You could at least say you did.
But guys, thank you so much. Thanks so much for your time. Yeah, it was awesome. Wish you all the best of luck. Yeah, and we'll stay in touch. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye, everyone.